What's up, Guava Bees? Welcome to a very special episode of the Dear Guava Bean podcast. So for the past few weeks, I've been recording guest episodes, which are episodes of me and an experienced freelancer talking about working online, sharing tips, insights, all of that stuff. But today I recorded a very special episode with a friend of mine who is living in the same city as me, and we talked a little bit about his work, but naturally with this whole coronavirus situation going on, he has a lot of friends and colleagues in China, and so we talked quite a bit about that as well. I'm going to release this episode ahead of schedule. All of the other episodes are already scheduled in for April and May and June, but because this is a timely issue and it's probably not going to be relevant 3 or 4 months from now, I'm going to go ahead and release this episode early. And if you want to listen to any of the other episodes when they come out, subscribe to the Guava Bean podcast or find us on iTunes or Stitcher, or YouTube. And we always upload every episode to our website. Go to guavabean.com. Remember to stay safe and healthy and to take care of each other at this time. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, Rob. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks for having me.
So tell me what you do for work as a freelancer.
Well, I'm a little bit new to the freelance/startup community. I'll just take you back really quickly through my last, several years and get you up to speed to where I'm at right now. My journey to Asia started in 2008 when I finished graduate school, and I just felt that it was a terrible economy, so I wanted to come to China and learn a different language. And I worked in China. I found a job, and for 6 years I worked in Beijing, and then I graduated from Beijing and I went to Shenzhen and worked 2 more years, all in a corporate kind of real estate research role. And after 8 years, I felt like I had enough of China, and the economy was slowing down right around in 2017, especially from a real estate perspective. And I met a couple guys in Hong Kong that enticed me to come to Bangkok and work for them. And so I came into Bangkok in April 2018, and I worked for them for this startup company. It was a startup in Bangkok. And then I recently, September 30th, I believe, I left. And I left because I wanted to do something more for myself. And that was to do things, to build my name up from an aspect of, I would like to be working for myself, but I'd like to be building things at the same time. So that's where we catch up to from September until today. That's where I am.
So September last year, so you've been freelancing 6-7 months?
Yeah, about 6 months. That's right.
You're a very, very fresh freelancer, a total newbie.
Correct.
But you have quite a bit of experience, right? You just transferred that online?
Yeah, when I worked in China, and I was I was a real estate research professional. So my writing was really good and my communication was really good. So I was talking to the press a lot, and I was also writing. So in the same time, to kind of supplement my job, my full-time job, I was always, writing for other companies at night or on the weekends, going from Chinese to English. And my Chinese is conversational. It's not fluent. So they would give me, Chinese copies as well as their English. And I would be doing like the PPTs or MOUs, the memorandums of understanding, or the Word documents, and kind of tuning them up to professional English so that the Chinese could do cross-border business. And it wasn't like a huge part of my life, because I was, in my full-time job, I was extremely busy. So that was my life. And kind of on the weekends, it was like a side gig. And, for 6 years, it started to become something very seasonal, meaning the Chinese would use me in the first quarter and the fourth quarter of every year to get things done for their company. And I came to Bangkok, and I kept them. I kept that relationship. And so when I was trying to transfer to freelance, I was saying, how can I do this? Can I do this on my own? Well, Bangkok cost of living is way less than Shenzhen. So, just having them as my freelance gig, it was kind of enough for me. So yeah, I've been freelancing for 6 months, but actually I've been setting myself up for that and just building the relationships outward for a few years, for 6, 7 years.
Tell me like why you even wanted to be a freelancer. Like what made you get started in this career?
The freedom. I worked for Chinese companies and it was always great work. I always loved my job. I just didn't really like the boss and didn't really like the hierarchy system of a Chinese workplace. And that kind of transferred over to Bangkok. Although my bosses here were foreigners, it was it was the same feeling. And again, the last 10 years I've been in Asia, so that's kind of my postgraduate life. That's kind of all I've known is the office environment. So what made me transfer over was I assessed the cost of living in Bangkok. I assessed what I needed and what I wanted from my life. I wanted that, was I disciplined? And the answer was yes. So once I knew I was disciplined enough to kind of make that leap, I knew that at least for 6 months of the year, the money would be okay, and then maybe I'd pick up something or something else, during those other quieter 6 months.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how has it been since you've gotten started? How are you finding it?
When I got started, it was good season for Chinese companies. So I left at the end of September, and it's been busy. It's I've been able to cover my costs and also have enough money to save up a little bit of money, and it's been active. But right now, it's with the virus and the seasons changing in China, it's kind of going to go away a little bit.
That's smart. I like how you have kind of planned it all out very tactically.
Thank you.
So tell me, like, it seems like you know the exact day, September 30. Why, what happened on that day? Or like what made you want to take, was it just something that you always planned and you knew that you would do it on that day? Or was it kind of like a spur of the moment decision?
It was planned. Everything I do is planned. It was also the fact that I was in a business and again, I liked my job. I was creating, I was bringing in revenue for the company, but it was frustrating. And there were some things just some things in a startup that you're involved in a startup. It's frustrating. So it became more and more frustrating. And I saw that the season, my particular business was heating up. And I said, well, it's now or never. And I live in Bangkok and I know some other freelancers that are doing it. They set themselves up to do it. I might as well give it a try. I don't think I could do this in China because what I make, it would be Shenzhen and Beijing are very expensive cities. So, but being that I'm in Bangkok and being that I made the decision to come to Bangkok, such a dynamic and diverse city, with a lot of freelancers. So I thought that if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that's true. This podcast is unique, or this episode is unique because I actually know you. We lived together at the same apartment, and I saw you so many times, like frustrated, like you said, stressed out. I would always be like, "How's work?" And it was never good. It was always frustrating, and I pushed you to like try out freelancing. You can do it. You're so frustrated at work. Like
Mm,
just do it. And then I was surprised because I tell this to quite a few people.
yeah.
Most people don't actually, do anything about it. The very next day, you quit your job,
Mm.
I think.
It was planned. It was planned,
Or maybe it was a few
maybe
days,
two
but the
months in
next
advance.
time I saw you, you were like, I'm a freelancer. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
what?
It was kind of planned, and my work was coming in at night more and more. So, and the business itself, the characteristics of the business were getting harder and harder to do. So I just, kind of had a discussion with my boss and said, enough is enough, and I can still cooperate with you if you ever need something from me, but yeah, I'm gonna try and do this on my own, and it's been nice. You can probably tell in my attitude and my personality of I'm much and just more relaxed, and like you said, you would see me and it wouldn't be a happy scene, and that's I kind of characterize that as also in China, it was never a happy scene working for a big company or any company really. I never had kind of knew what I wanted to do, and that knowing of what you want to do and what you can do, it comes for different people at different times. So maybe it comes to you at, you're 26 years old and you're like, I want to do this. I want to, design clothes or be a designer. For me, it's always been my writing, but I never really had the confidence that I could generate business or hunt for business, or keep it going. And I still don't know. I still don't know what April, May, June, July is going to be like. It's probably going to be quiet. And if it is quiet, it gives me the opportunity, not, I have some savings, so it gives me the opportunity to kind of shift and, maybe do some more startup activities on other projects.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Like you said, you're a planner, you're very resourceful. It's something that every freelancer worries about, what are the coming months going to be like? I don't know. But it's a healthy attitude to have. Like if you were too relaxed, if you were like, "Oh, I'm sure it'll be okay."
Right.
That would be, then I would be a little bit worried about you. But the fact that you are thinking about it means that, you're putting plans into motion. I'm sure you're taking the right steps to protect yourself.
Right. I'll give you a good example. Just in the last 6 weeks, there was a job that popped up online right here in Thailand, and offline. My background is in economics and finance, so there was this university position teaching economics for two weeks and teaching business for 2 weeks, and so it was 4 weeks and two different classes. And it's just like, I met the guy. I met the it was in a partnership with an American college, and I'm like, I've never been a professor in my life, but I'm a public speaker. So if I'm able to do something and help people and talk about it in a way, well, basically I could do this. So I picked up a job, and the job, paid me very well for 4 weeks. So that those little things, those little gig, I call it, like in the gig economy, like the Ubers and the Airbnbs, those are gigs. If you can, have your skill, whatever it is, you designer, writer, teacher, architect, whatever it is, and then also have different things that you can kind of seek out and try to improve, in just small gigs, it can really, really help and supplement your salary, because those 4 weeks, I mean, it just brings in extra income that I can also balance with my kind of quote unquote full-time writing in China.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Sometimes you get these little gigs or these little jobs or projects when you least expect it, or they just like pop up out of nowhere. Sometimes I've had those things come in at like the perfect time, just when I'm starting to think about like, oh, what am I going to do to find my next client? Something will pop up. Not always, but that's the nice thing about this type of work. Like opportunities come up, and you can actually take advantage of them. You could do stuff that you never thought you would do before, stuff that you've always wanted to do, like teaching, like being a professor. It sounds like that job is perfect for you, but you would not have been able to do it if you had stayed in your old job.
Correct. It was perfect, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. And again, and I read a lot of books, right? So these books talk to you about expanding your horizons, and like the people you meet, just through in the program, in the institute from America. I mean, they can set you up with other things in the future. If you're a good cooperator and you add value to the program, these people that you meet, they might be able to offer you things down the road. Maybe not always, but in my experience, more times than not, the people that you meet kind of circle back to you every, if your service is good, and they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, that has been my experience also. The more connections that you make, I mean, that's the real currency. Your connections
Right.
is everything, and that's how I get all my jobs. It's people that I've worked with before. I've done a project or I've done a gig for them, and they were impressed with my work, and whenever they need something new, or if they know someone who needs something, they always think of me and they refer me. And like you said, those connections are so valuable. You never know how it can come back to you in the future. Like 2 years from now, someone that you worked with could reach out to you with
Right.
this amazing opportunity or this amazing connection. And that's happened to me many times. I've gotten my best clients from someone reaching out after like a year of not working together and saying, "Hey, I have a friend that you really should meet." So I love those little connections and just the opportunity to work with so many different people. Like you can work in so many different fields. You can work in like the education industry, you can work in the economics and business and all sorts of things. It's kind of like you learn so much more. You can open yourself up to so many new opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the money was always good in China and even in Bangkok, but, there's always a balance. And in my experience, now other people might have different experiences. I know my sister has worked for one company that she grew from when she was 23 until she was 35, and it just happened to work out for her. Sometimes that happens where you start low and you grow with the business. But for me, I've always been a writer and a researcher, and I've always loved my job, but I've never been valued as somebody that can, I guess in China, they don't value research as much as they do in the West, but I was never in that situation where I felt, I could grow with this company. So now as I kind of expand my sphere of networks, I have people from last year, like you said, that I worked with last year that they want to build a company around me in China. So like something that I'm in charge of, getting Western writers, and they're in charge of marketing in China, because that's a skill I cannot do. Even I speak Chinese, I cannot operate in the Chinese system like the Chinese can. So it's really, that's kind of in motion right now. So I'm not expecting anything from that for at least 6 months, but it's going to be interesting because, you do what you love and you love what you do, and that will eventually lead to other things if you're good at it, and which I'm sure you are, because you do what you love what you do. So that's something that I learned, is that I'm just always trying to expand and take out of 100 relationships I have, maybe two will be life changing. You just never know. So you just keep on trying to provide a good service and keep going forward.
Yes, and that is the right attitude. Like that's 100% how you do it, because if you were to try to do it for the money, then people don't like that, turns clients off. If
Right.
you come at it from the angle of like, oh, I desperately need these clients, I need to make as much money as I can because I don't know what the future holds,
Right.
that desperation and stuff, that is what keeps freelancers from getting good clients and getting good jobs, because they're not approaching it with that attitude like you have of, if you love what you do, you'll do great work. And I think that is really the recipe for success in anything. Like if you just love what you do and you do it 100%, that will pay off. People will notice that. The right people will recognize that quality in you and they'll want to work with you. They'll be attracted to you because they see like, okay, this is someone who is a hard worker and who puts their clients first. And that's very, very important.
Yep, I agree. It came with time. It comes with when I was younger in my career, it probably wasn't like that for me, but fortunately, luckily, I've had enough experience in China to understand what I'm good at, and then when I understand what I'm good at, I can just apply it in my daily freelance life of doing business.
Yeah, you mentioned China a lot. I'm curious, what was it like living in China and working there?
It made me who I am. So if you think about me I went to China in 2010, and I graduated from graduate school in 2008. So I worked about a year in the American system, and that system failed at that time. So I went to learn Chinese in China and also work. And if you ask me in 2010, 11, 12, 13, how's China, I'll say miserable, because Beijing is a very tough city to live in, and nobody speaks English, and you have to kind of assimilate and learn their language. But when I look back at it, I'm always thanking them, because my whole outlook of who I am today is because of China, is because, I worked my butt off and and I really didn't get that far, but it showed me who I am as a professional, as a skill provider, that I never ever could have or did do in America. I never in America, it was always these jobs. It's interesting because I tell people in America, I always liked my bosses. They were always good guys. I never liked my work. And then in China, I always liked my work, but I never really liked the people above me. So on every single level, I think that if you compare America to China or the West to China, they're polar opposites in every single way, in culture, in language, in business. But when you do something that is totally opposite to where you come from, there's going to be a lot of growing pains, but there's going to be a lot of growth over the long term. So, and if you said, well, why don't you go back there? I'll say, I would like to work with the Chinese, just not be in China. That's kind of the relationship I have with them.
What's the relationship that you have with them?
The relationship I had with them is that I would like to always work with them and cooperate with them, but never be inside China. So if you asked me, well, Rob, you have a lot of influence in China. Why don't you go back there? And I would say to you, well, I've been there. A lot of the work now is mobile, and a lot of the work now is flexible work. So I think China is moving to more of a flex economy. And the people that I met there that are trying to build a business around me, they live in New York. So they're Chinese that, live in New York, but of course they would commute back to Beijing. And I wouldn't necessarily need to be in China to kind of grow this business. Everything is kind of moving toward an online, platform or an online way of working. So I'm going to start a business in China this year with the help of the Chinese, of course, and I'm going to recruit people in Guangzhou, Shenzhen, even the Philippines, because they're good English speakers, right? So, going to recruit people in China, in outside China, to kind of help me grow my business, given if we have the demand. So, yeah, that's kind of the relationship I have. Is that everything in China was kind of opposite of everything in America, but that oppositeness is hard. Like I said, it is hard at first, but it also creates diversity in your skill set and in your character, and that will benefit you later on.
Yeah, it sounds like you were just completely out of your comfort zone for a
Always.
long time.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
And it must have been, like you said, very uncomfortable, very miserable, but you're growing every single day. Like you're challenging yourself every single day, and you come out of it, like you said, a completely different person.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, when I moved to Bangkok and I got here, I still remember the first day I was swimming in your old pool, and I'm just like, this is amazing. And I came here, and it's still amazing. I still go up to the pool and I still think of that first day where I just, threw myself in, and I'm like, this place is so diverse. It's got Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Westerner, Australian. It's got everybody. And China didn't really have that. China was 99% Chinese. So yeah, you have to deal with that every single day. So when I came out to Bangkok, it's almost like I graduated from China. I didn't necessarily leave because I always wanted to continue working with them, because I know that they are the key to business opportunity for me in one way or another. Because the market is so big, they're just so big. So of course we're going to see some slowdowns now, and that's going to pass, and things are going to come back to normal. But yeah, I left it. It was an opportune time to leave because the China market was slowing down, and it was just I made the decision. I always remember, I'm like, I'm going to continue working with them even though I'm leaving. That was my thought when I was leaving there.
Yeah, I like how you said graduate from China. Like it's a university and you get a degree after it. But in some ways, you've used it like that. Like you've used everything that you learned in that university. And now you're working, like you're using it to work. It's like you got the best of both worlds. You've got like the business connections and the experience from China, but now you can live and work wherever you want.
Again, it's not. I don't want to paint such a rosy picture of my life, because it's not. Everybody, we all have our challenges. But I feel good in the fact that people are cooperating with me to help me build something slowly. And I'm also, in addition to them cooperating with me, I'm doing my daily, weekly, monthly work that comes into me. And on top of that, I'm building, I'm just trying to build something here in Thailand with regard to consumer goods and services. So I'm trying to dip my hand in a few things, but I'm also keeping consistent to what pays me.
What's the biggest challenge for you right now?
The biggest challenge would be I don't know what's next as far as the next 4 months go, because my season is slowing down. It's going to come into April soon. And usually the quarter four, which is October, November, December, and quarter one, which is January, February, and March, are the two hot quarters for my type of work in China. It just happens that way. For the last 8 years, it's been like that. So I don't know what my biggest challenge is. What's next? Like any freelancer, is I'm trying to, keep my eye open for any online work, keep my eye open for any professorial work in economics that I might be able to pick up. And I know I have that niche, so I want to exploit that niche. I guess my biggest challenge is from April, May, June, July, and August, these next 5 months, I guess, on top of the coronavirus that's going on globally, what am I going to be, what's my path in those 5 months? And I'm insulated enough. I have, kind of the funds to get through that, but I want to grow. I want to keep moving, so that's my biggest challenge, I guess. And then after August, I think I'm pretty good for another 6 months.
Yeah, it seems like you're in a very seasonal business, which is interesting. I've never experienced that myself, like where you have work 6 months of the year, but then the other 6 months you're trying to figure it out and like just getting by. But I'm sure that in the meantime, you'll find a way to use that time, to your advantage. Maybe put together some new projects or start work with another country. But I wanted to ask you what you think about the whole coronavirus situation, since obviously, like when we're recording this, it's March 21st. It's, top of everybody's mind right now, and you work very closely with the Chinese. So what are you seeing like work-wise, and what do you think it's gonna be for the next few months?
It's a good question. One of my companies, from end of January, from Chinese New Year until March 1st, I didn't get any business. I got so a couple of companies kept giving me business in preparation because they're more international, so business kept going. But a couple of local companies, I completely dried up. And then and China kind of self quarantined them, with the mega cities that they have. They all stayed at home and nobody went, outside even. So China pretty much put themselves in a position to come out of their business as usual there. So as the rest of the world kind of suffers right now, they're all in the office and working. I don't know how. I'm not there, so I can't tell you the feel of the market. But from I think January 25th until March 2nd or 3rd, they were all inside. Yeah, they pretty much, I think, stopped it. So I'm hoping that the rest of the world kind of follows that model. I mean, the model is very public. If you ask any Chinese what they did, if they lived in Chengdu or Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, they all just self-quarantined and then didn't go outside and then closed their borders. If the US and Europe, if they stay inside and don't interact with anybody for 6 weeks, I would assume that things will recover. The market is pricing in a recession, which is fine. I think a recession is overdue, but after a recession, things kind of start to get back to normal. So I'm hoping by September, October, the world market is going to start moving again.
September, October, that long. I was hoping like a couple months, and by June we'd all be, back on the beach doing our thing.
I phrased that wrong. I think from a macroeconomic perspective, I think we come out of a recession in September, October. We're going to go into a recession, but because this virus is going to basically halt the global economy. Yeah, I think after 2 months of halting the economy, you'll see that in the numbers, and you'll start to hear reporters reporting on a recession. That's fine. But yeah, I think in 2 months we'll be back on the beach. I hope. I mean, given what I've seen in China, you stop the virus from spreading, you stop the virus. So I would say 2 months is reasonable.
Okay. That makes me feel a lot better. I was like, I am not staying inside until
No, no, no.
September.
I think September, October is the time where the markets bounce back and jobs start becoming abundant again for freelancers, for teachers, for professionals in Bangkok or Southeast Asia. Because right now, all jobs are kind of, I mean, many jobs are kind of halted. You talk of Bangkok food and beverage, I mean, nobody's going outside. So there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to go under. There's going to be a lot of companies that are going to hurt. But I think now is the time more than ever. If you want to do something different, right now, at this very moment, is the time to try to do that, because economic activity is going to halt for 2 months. So you can be planning something, you can be, talking to other businesses, you can be thinking about launching your own idea and getting the map to get the plan together right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. If people start planning now, I mean, like everyone says, there's opportunity in what calamity or crisis. There's always an opportunity if you know how to look for it. I think for some people, they will actually come out even better than before. If you use this time wisely and you show your clients how much you care about them and how good you are at problem solving and coming up with creative solutions. Like, I think a lot of people could come out of this in a very positive way, even if maybe financially they're not better off, but maybe their reputation, they've done something very generous or they've done something very creative, and that will pay off for them in the long run. It's a good time, like you said, to be doing new things, to be putting out any kind of new or different ideas. It's a perfect time for anything really, because now everybody's looking for solutions, they're looking for answers. And so if you can create a new product or service, you might have like a really good opportunity on your hands.
Yeah, I think that for me, my plan personally in the next month or so, I went into a small business with a Thai woman, an older Thai woman that makes really homemade, delicious pad Thai, khao soy, and nam niao. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the ground and go to all the different condominiums, because nobody's going to be going out. So just passing around flyers that say, hey, we're cheap, we deliver. If you need us, give us a call. And I just think that that's probably a good use of my time, because people are not, as we heard about just today, the news just came out today that the malls are all going to be closing until April 12th. So Tesco Lotus is going to stay open, but we can assume that Century Mall and Asok 21 Mall and Prampong, they're all going to be closed for a few weeks. So I just have some other business ideas that I want to develop in this time and see if we can't get delivery revenues up. So something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, being relevant to what's going on. I see that I have actually noticed people dropping in a lot more menus into the mailboxes. I've gotten a few, some of my friends have gotten a few. The funny thing that I've noticed though is that nobody's really addressing why they're dropping it in. Like, they're just dropping in this flyer and everyone knows they're doing it because obviously it's a good time for delivery. But if somebody would put on the flyer, like, our staff is all clean and nobody's infected, that would help a lot, because the one thing that's stopping me right now from ordering delivery, I'm like, that's a great way to get my food. But what if people are sick that are making my food?
Yeah,
And
good point.
so finding a way to like address the issue, and that's what's worked the best for me and my clients. Like, I work in advertising, and a lot of people are freaking out and they're turning off their ads and they're worried that nobody's going to be buying anymore. But what I did with some of my clients is we just changed the messaging in the ad. We changed it to say something like, stuck at home, why not watch this free camera class? And it's selling better than ever. if you can address like the situation in a positive way that is not trying to exploit people. I think people really resonate with that, and that's where I feel like the opportunity is.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually we had the idea to do that. We're going to put a little paper on our flyer and say, during these times, you stuck at home, get some freshly made daily, delicious, clean cow soy. Something that will turn people on from. We'll let them know that the food is homemade. It's made every day. It's made fresh, and it's available for them on a delivery service. So it's a good idea. I think that message needs to be there, that like, you can rely on us, give us a try. We're clean and we keep things very tidy and we're delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just listening to that, I need a flyer right now. Yeah, I think that, unique times call for unique solutions, and the people who are creative and who can show and like communicate that are gonna win during this time. Not that it's a competition, but there are a lot of people who are gonna lose. They're gonna
Yeah,
lose big. And
yeah,
there are some people who are gonna win, and some people will win big. And it's the people who are super creative and who are looking for opportunities to help their customers in the best way possible.
correct. I think that's the that's what you got to always keep in mind. You got to do it for the love of the game. And again, what motivates me is just to build something from nothing. I used to chase money when I was younger, and it never got me anywhere. And just something, I guess, changed as I got a little bit older, and just want to, just create and, kind of use uh, the industrial way of like just doing it, going by ground and, talking to people and just trying to solve a problem, just keeping keeping that mentality of how am I solving a problem for people? How am I making their life easier?
Yeah, it's so much more satisfying when you do it that way, when you come at it from that approach of just like trying to help people how to solve a problem, like you said. It ends up bringing the community together, because if everybody's thinking, how can I solve a problem, like how can I make things easier for people, everyone is going to do something to help someone else. And if everybody does that, then we can recover from any kind of recession like much much faster. I feel like the danger is really in people putting out advice there, like, stop spending, cut back all of your memberships or any of your programs that you don't need. Like, some people are saying like lay off your employees.
Mm,
If you
mm.
have anyone on retainer, switch them to hourly.
Yeah, some people
And
have
that
to,
is scary.
yes,
Yeah,
I
some
mean,
people have to.
and I hear those stories as well. I hear some of my business leaders, friends from America saying, their boss is keeping everybody on the payroll when everybody else isn't, and like, what a great guy. And I agree. If you can and you do that, that will be remembered from your employees. But obviously, if you're hurting, um, I just had this meeting with a hotel Indian Thai that owns 3 hotels in Nana, and he was asking me, if I wanted to rent his place, because I have this small Thai food business that we might want to, switch locations someday. And I was really considering his location because the Nana Asok area is very commercial, and lots of people go there to work, and we can accommodate them with delivery. But at the end of the day, I just said, thank you, but no thank you. And he was kind of offended by that. Like, why are you turning me down? I'm like, listen, it's nothing personal. It's just the strategy of the business. What the times we're in today, I can't really stick my neck out there and risk my money to rent from you. And you could feel he was hurting. His response in a business way, he responded, I don't get why you don't want to rent my place. You seem so eager to rent. And I, think things change, with this virus, things change in a day. There's now new laws on the border for foreigners getting in. So everything has to be taken into account. And when I'm not kind of surprised by his reaction, but I also kind of understand it, because I know he's probably getting hurt somewhere. He's in the hotel business and it's supposed to be hot, high season, and he's 20% occupied. So yeah, it's some people are getting hurt out there, and it's not funny, but You just got to be very, very mindful and careful of the decisions you make now. And I did a lot of reading in the last few years, and one of the books I read was by a profound author named Wayne Dyer, and he talks about acting out of fear versus acting out of love. So if you're acting out of fear, you're always doing things because you're afraid of what's going to happen in the future. Now, I understand that, because if you haven't planned accordingly and you've stuck your neck out there, and maybe you're over leveraged, which means maybe you have too many expenses versus the revenue. Yeah, I understand that. But what I'm trying to not do is not set myself up to not act out of fear in any situation. So if it's between me renting out a space for 30,000 a month or not rent, I don't want to put myself in that position to be in fear. So I'd rather just keep light and just do things that I love. So if that's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. In times like this, it's smart to not take on additional expenses,
Right.
like unless you really believe that you have a good opportunity here. If the market is unstable, it makes sense. Everybody is being a lot more cautious with how they spend money, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I think that for certain businesses, like you said, a lot of people are hurting. Small business owners are hurting a lot right now. And like my gym membership, they're putting out signs that say, if you want a gym to come back to, don't cancel your membership.
Mm, mm.
I think in that way, small business, you can support small business owners by keeping up certain payments. Obviously, big new payments are not a good idea, but I'm still trying to order from my favorite local restaurants. I'm still going to the supermarket and buying food as normal. I'm still trying to spend money the way I would normally so that the businesses that rely on that kind of income are not even more hurt than they already are, because for sure they will be hurt. But I think loyalty is something that's very important right now, and this is one way that we can support the community, like the local community, is by ordering locally, like still spending with local businesses
Yeah.
and trying to help.
I
But
think that's a
you're right
good
about the
I think that's a
fear.
good example of the behavior of a freelancer, of keeping consistent, never getting too big and getting too risky, and getting, by big I mean never going too indulgent and never getting too affected, because these times, the economy, for everybody out there, the economy's been pretty good since around 2009. So for a lot of people that are 30 years old or 35 years old, that means it's been good for their entire career. And I'm here to tell you that this should not be expected to continue like that. Usually in a healthy economy, recessions happen every 5 to 7 years, or even sooner than that. The fact is that this economy has been so stretched for now 11 years, 12 years, people might take exorbitant risk. And for a freelancer, you're already, maybe you're a consistent freelancer and you're getting this consistent income. That's great. Your actions in your personal life should also mirror that of consistency. Never really, and it's obvious information actually, but not many people kind of adhere to it, stick to it. But it should be said that, you're continuing to be consistent in this downtime, and when it's going again, yeah, your business is going to be up, but you're just going to continue to be consistent in your personality too.
Yeah, I like how you framed it that way. That's very important. If you can afford to be generous right now, like if you are still making income, if you're one of the lucky people who are, not seeing a real economic downturn right now in your personal life, this is the time to be generous if you can afford to. And I've been very fortunate that none of my clients have gone away or, stopped working with me. And so for as long as I continue to get paid, I'm going to continue to pay other people and to continue to spend money with local businesses, because I know how important it is to, to just keep that going right now.
We have the boilerplate scenario of China already happening and in place. If we mirror that scenario, I think the world comes out of it better, unless China goes through another stage of infection. Then you throw everything I said out the window. But if that doesn't happen, I think that we follow this example, and it is a recession, and the market is pricing it as a recession. So I do think we have some business reaction, but if we can come out of this relatively okay, I expect to come out of this relatively okay.
Yeah, I expect to come out of this better than before, actually. I like to see everything as an opportunity. I see even the worst times are the best times for new things, you know. People like me, freelancers, people who have made a living like betting on themselves and, taking a chance. I'm comfortable with risk. I know what the danger is. I've protected myself financially, I've protected my team financially, and I started a business in the right field. Right now everybody wants to be a freelancer. Everybody wants to work online. And so I think how you come out of this, it really depends on your attitude and your approach to the situation and also the choices that you make. If you make the right choices, you can come out of this even better than before. A lot of people are just listening to the news and they're seeing it as a recession, and they're seeing all the signals and they're deciding to pull back their money. And even people who are still fine financially. I was just on a call with one of my consulting clients yesterday, and she was like, I'm so blessed. I have a really secure job. I'll be fine, but I'm going to need to stop paying my memberships for a while. And I was like, if you're fine, why are you stopping the memberships? And so it's that behavior that I think we need to kind of avoid as much as possible, even though it's technically the smart thing to do is to like save your money and to stop spending and to, be really, really cautious. At the same time, it's not a recession because everybody's out of money. It's a recession because we all have to stay home. As soon as we can all go out again, businesses will pick up, restaurants will get full, everybody will need to travel, not just want to travel.
That's right. And the businesses will need people back. Like I said, this is in 2008, and I lived through 2008, and that was one of the ugliest things that I've ever seen in my life. It made me want to leave America. I mean, it was that ugly. So I changed around my whole life because of 2008. This is not 2008. This is a blip on the radar. And because people haven't experienced, I mean, I would say half the workforce right now today that's active in the workforce hasn't seen a recession. And because 2008 is 12 years ago, so if you're 22 coming out and you're 34 now, if you're 34 or younger, you haven't seen a recession. So there's a little bit of a freak out. But recessions are, and for everybody older like me, I'm now 40, so I've seen a couple. I've seen way worse. So we have a benchmark, and we have something to measure this against, and that's really, really important. And those that have long memories like myself or other people, if you're benchmarking this experience against the next one, how bad or how not as bad is it? So it really helps you to frame a scenario, a down market scenario, because it is going to be a down market for what I mean is a macro market for 6 months or so in terms of GDP. Now, things will start to turn around when the virus goes away. But like I said, I've lived through worse, way worse. So my opinion is it's not going to be that bad. I hope I'm right. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we're all just guessing. None of us are experts right now. But I think that's the right approach to take. It could be bad, but hopefully it's not that serious. And like you said, if you're thinking back to the previous recessions, it was so much more serious then than it is now. So I think people will be okay. We just need to have a little perspective. We need to take care of each other, take care of ourselves. And I think this is a time when people are going to remember what's really important to them. Good health, having a reliable income stream, having some cash flow, having savings, having good friends and family. It's an opportunity for a lot of people to do the things that they've always wanted to do.
If I'm talking to people who are thinking about freelancing or thinking about leaving their job to do something they love, I would just say, keep your job and do something you love, because that something you love is going to set yourself up later on so that perhaps you can quit your job. Nothing kind of happens so immediately, as much as I want it to, as much as everybody wants things to be an immediate success. I was actually writing for 8 years, and in for the Chinese on my part-time. So I would just do it to make extra income. And it's the same with everything. Maybe some people take the immediate leap, right? And that's fine. They're risk taking. They're taking a risk. But I would just say, try to have that stable income, but also try to work on your side gig at night and on the weekend to see how you can improve it. And then the people that you meet are actually going to come up with greater and greater opportunities. Like my network, I'm constantly bouncing ideas off of my network. I'm not starting everything with them. I'm not going into startup A, startup B, startup C, because it's important to reject things, unless you have a very, very strong feeling. The more you reject things, the more kind of experience you get into saying, oh, I'm not in love with this, so I'm not going to start this, but it's good to talk about, because talking about it gets the ideas going and you can poke holes in things, and you can look at the strengths in things, and really you get experience from that. There was one startup I started up in China, and I eventually got out of it, but I realize now that after the 3 years of doing it, how much I learned from it, and how much I learned what to do and what not to do. There's a difference between wanting to do something and doing something you're strong in. Because a lot, I have my wants change every day. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. But am I strong in it? And I was, my startup that I started up in China, after 3 years, we closed it up, and I didn't break even. I think I lost a little bit of money at the end of the day after the 3 years of putting in money. I think I got a lot of it back, and I think I ended up with a loss, but I really ended up with an education on be careful and do things that don't. These people that take a risks in starting up applications or starting up, this or that, they have experience in that. So you don't know the backstory. It's really important to know how, if somebody has the next generational idea, like Jeff Bezos at Amazon, what's his experience? What did he do before Amazon that led him to starting up Amazon? And I think that's really important for people that are getting into the freelancer startup world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's important to point out. Like, you can't just do it and hope for the best. It's a whole career, and you have to have some kind of experience. You don't have to have like a ton of experience, but you have to you have to know how you can help people, and you have to be confident in that. And freelancing just by itself, starting in a good economy, is hard. But freelancing starting right now, if anybody's thinking about trying to be a freelancer, this is probably one of the hardest times to get into freelancing. But if you do it now and if you make it work, you will be okay forever, because you know how to get clients during a recession. That is, that's a skill. But
Very true.
I think that a lot of people are actually looking for freelancers right now. A lot of people need to move online. A lot of companies are looking for solutions. Maybe they're not specifically looking to hire, but companies are looking for solutions. And if you can provide a solution, maybe they'll pay you to implement it. And so now's the time to be creative. That doesn't mean start a freelance career. It just means be creative. Find a creative way that you can help other people, and maybe tie it into some, cash flow for you.
Mm. Very good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've done a full hour, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you so much for joining and for talking to me about this. It's actually very interesting that I'm talking to you right now, because you have special insight about China that I probably wouldn't have been able to get from anyone else.
Yes, I work with them daily.
Well, I really hope that things are going to be back to normal.
Yeah, it will be. Like I said, I'm talking to them daily. There's some partners of mine I have in New York, some in Shanghai, some in central China, and they're all pretty much back to work. Even the there's no new infections or something. I heard, every day. So I think they pretty much contained it. So if they're a model, we just copy their model, like they've copied the world and everything else, and we just roll it out, And after 2 months, we're gonna be okay.
I like how you just dropped that in, like they copy everything else. It's like the world's turn to copy from China for
That's right. That's
once.
right. That's right. That's right.
What a legacy, though. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate this. If anything changes, if your friends in China tell you anything, like make
I
sure to
will.
keep me updated.
I'll let you
All
know.
right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me. You too.